Hi, and welcome to this video that deviates a bit from the normal schedule of Agent Framework, but it is related to Agent Framework because this week Microsoft Ignite is going on, where a bunch of new things have been announced regarding a lot of AI. I don't think they really talked about anything other than that. So I've been through the news. The conference is still going, but I think the major news has now been announced. There might be more, and I will add that to the comments if need be. But I've taken the news that makes sense for an AI C# developer and for people who use the Microsoft Agent Framework and try to narrow it down here. So I'm not talking about Copilot, GitHub Copilot, Copilot Studio, and so on. It's about primarily the Foundry portal, because that is essentially everything. So we have had the Azure AI Foundry portal since May, but now everything is being rebranded into Microsoft Foundry instead of Azure AI Foundry, and it got kind of the same logo, but they also have this new, in my opinion, ugly dot logo that you can't really see what is. But I might be the one who can't see dot logos, but that's the way it is. Everything inside AI in Microsoft, other than Copilot, of course, is also being rebranded as IQ. So there's Foundry IQ, which is just the features that Foundry can do. There's Fabric IQ, that is what data can do. There's Work IQ, which is just the Outlook, PowerPoint, and stuff data. So that's our new reality. We need to call it Microsoft Foundry, and we need to call it Foundry IQ. Probably won't use that too much, but Azure AI Foundry as such is no more. And in general, everything I'm about to show is about the new portal and the new features it have in there. So if you don't care about Azure AI Foundry, or Microsoft Foundry as it's called now, this video won't really give you anything. There's nothing about the Microsoft Agent Framework as such. I hadn't expected that either. It will more be that, of course, Microsoft Agent Framework will support all these features, but nothing more than that. But for those who are interested, this is how the new portal looks like. It's still the same URL, ai.foundry.com, and you can switch between the new and the old world version still. It's kind of an acquired taste. For example, the main navigation sits up here, where you normally don't want to go. It's more secondary place you put things, but when you go in these, there will actually be a sidebar with for each one of them. But I think the sidebar simply became too big, so they have done this. I sort of got used to it during the day, sitting around playing with it. Also, the designers who made this certainly don't know what kind of data there are in their fields, because I've not seen any of these fields that are either way too big or way too small. So here should say Sweden Central. Here should show it will be fixed. It will be fixed. A nice little thing is that below in the homepage, you can go quickly into what other things you have to work with before here. So that's nice. And then in the middle here, which is just the news in general for Microsoft Foundry, is the big news as well coming out of Ignite. And that is that the Claude models are now in Azure, meaning they are the first ones to ever have both OpenAI and Claude in the same offering. So more or less, essentially, they're only missing Gemini, which they of course won't get, in my opinion. But they have Claude now, and they can be worked with just like all the other models that are up there. The big thing for us as developers is, of course, the agents. And the agents, as we saw in the Breaking Chains video I made last week, was correct in that there's a new thing coming. And those agents I made in that video were actually showing up in the new portal. The old agents are what they call now classic agents, and while in the new portal you can't change them other than you can save them and turn them into the new agents. Agents also can use many more models now. Here are all the extra models it can work with, and not surprisingly, it's all the ones that are OpenAI based. Grok is OpenAI based, DeepSeek is OpenAI based. This Microsoft one is a special version of DeepSeek where a lot of things have not been blocked compared to what there are in DeepSeek. Llama is here, which can probably also be talk with through the OpenAI. Claude is a bit. I need to test this out at some point because I can't really see how we can call it, because we have the NuGet package, and that's an AI branded package. It seems like they're using the open source library Anthropic.sdk, which I have also used in my repo, to work with the models. But agent-wise, I haven't seen yet exactly how they're gonna do that. But I will probably make a video about it. Also, the model router can now be used as an agent. I think it's a bit hit and miss, but if you just use it out of the box, but you can go in and choose which models can be used in it. And in general, it's gone general availability until now. It was in preview. But the thing about the model router is, of course, that it can go in and, based on your question, use a smaller model or a bigger model. But my first try, when I just said hi, it ended up using an O4 model for some reason, instead of just a small 4.1 mini or something like that. In terms of models also, there is a new deployment type called developer. I was actually very interested in that because I hoped it was few tokens and cheaper pricing, but it's actually only for fine tuning, so it's not really too interesting. In terms of the agents themselves, they can now finally set reasoning effort, which has been missing for a while, so that's good. One odd thing I haven't really understood yet, but I will dive more into, is that the thread concept is gone. In the past, you could save agents, and then you could save threads, and then you could add, update, and delete those threads. Now they are gone. There is a tracing system where you can see the same data, but you can't delete anything in the tracing system. And then there's this new memory part where you can go in and set the agent to store memory for you. So, and you can scope it to the user. But it doesn't really work right now, it seems. I tried to give it my name and then refreshed and then asked for my name, and it still didn't know. And behind the scenes, I could see that it's just throwing an error message about some resource being unavailable. In general, everything is quite unstable and quite slow up there. It is a preview after all, so I definitely wouldn't like to go into production with this so far. Another thing we saw in my previous video was about the versioning, and it is there. You can simply switch between versions every time you save, a new version happens. And you can go in and compare the versions and delete the version, so you can quickly go back to a previous version, and so on. Another thing I hadn't thought about is it now have a publishing system. So it seems like whenever you make a change to an agent, and someone is using that agent in the other end inside Teams or Microsoft, which you can now publish them to. I don't think they will get those changes until you actually publish and then publish the updates So it seems like there's a two-step process in releasing an agent, and I guess it's probably also available through the SDK. Also for agents, if we look at the tools it can work with, of course it can use with its default configured things like file search, Bing search, computer use, and so on. And code interpreters also here, it's just because I had already selected it, it's not listed here. But then we have a catalog of all other tools, and they are all MCP servers that Microsoft have chosen. A lot of them are by themselves, but also some of the bigger brands like Atlassian have their listed here in the catalog. I don't really know how to get into the catalog, if that's an important thing for you. It seems to be curated at the moment. At the same time, there's a lot of logic apps connectors also up here that you can work with. There's several thousand in this list of catalog. So also a thing we need to try at some point. But nice that you can get the out-of-the-box various MCP servers, so you don't need to define them yourself. You can also have the custom tools, so you can hook up a remote MCP server and authenticate it and everything through the portal, which is nice. You can work with A2A, where you give your agent card and then it works there. And the OpenAPI tool is still there. And I think it's now working in Microsoft Agent Framework. I saw a small sample they made recently. But again, a lot more we also need to check out. Because in general, I need to re-record all the videos about agents, the old agents I will call classic, and then I will need to try all these features. So my videos that are 2 weeks old is now obsolete, to be honest. Of course, you can use the old system yet, but it will definitely go away at some point, I guess. Then a brand new thing is that, like Microsoft Agent Framework that have the workflows, you can also make agentic workflows up here in the portal by itself and have them run up here. I think you still need to activate them yourself because it doesn't look like there's any scheduling or triggering system in any way. In general, it's very, very bare bone here. You can see you can do agents, you can do a little about variables, you can do if else and stuff like that and send messages back to the user. So it's not like a complete system like N8N or Zapier and so on. It's more a simple little system where you can chain your agents together that are in Foundry and have them work together. I'm pretty sure that Agent Framework will be able to send some of their workflows up here and take some of these workflows and and convert them into Microsoft Agent workflows, because they are not the same. In the Azure NuGet package that they use, these are called conversations for some reason instead of workflows. But they are there, and I definitely can see that Microsoft Agent Framework can make some workflows that certainly can't be here, because we have the executors, and the executor is not a thing here. It's only the agentic workflows that seems to be able to be here. But yet another thing we need to investigate. Other smaller things that I have found so far is that the default Azure OpenAI URL, the old one, not the Foundry one, has changed. In the old days, it had the word OpenAI in it. Now it switches that to services. And that's probably because there's so many other models up there. The old URL will still work, so it's not like you need to change anything, so that's okay. Then in some of the promotion material I went through researching for this video, they talk about Microsoft Foundry being cross-cloud. They just mention it, but do not elaborate on it. So I don't know if it's just marketing speak or because they now have models from other providers, or if it's truly something that in some way can be used in other clouds. So I don't know, unless I hear something more about this, then I probably won't investigate it more. Then there's something called priority processing. So each agent you can can set up to have priority processing. So it gives a higher SLA when running. And I haven't found the pricing yet, but it's probably a little like OpenAI's, where it's double the price or something like that. Then just an interesting thing from the rest of Ignite was that agents are more or less now treated as users in Entra, which is kind of interesting, and you can see them as just like you see users in a list, you see all agents across your Azure, and I probably see that as it's a really good governance thing to do, and it makes total sense that agents slowly gets the privilege the same as users, so it has access to the Word document, or it has not access, and so on. Foundry Local, which run on Windows and Mac so far, can now also run on Android. It's a private preview, so I don't think I will get access to it, and I don't have an Android phone either, so it doesn't matter for me. But interesting that they want to run directly on the phone as well. And then there's something called an Agent 365 MCP server. And that should get access to Outlook, Word, and PowerPoint, and SharePoint, and such things. It's something only for something called Frontier customers, which I'm not. So I haven't tried it yet, but interesting that they are making the entire Office suite as an MCP server, which we at some point in the agents probably can consume when it comes general available. That was a long one. That is everything I have found. If you have found something that you find interesting so far, or if something pops up during the next couple of days with various videos on agent framework and rest of Ignite, then let's collaborate together in the comments to figure that out. But for now, see you in the next one.